open about who we were as people. So we didn't. I feel sometimes that a lot of relationships are based on this facade of who you are as a person, so that you show up as the ideal partner for this other person. A lot of people aren't showing up as their true self. And when I met Jorge, I really showed him my true self, and he showed me his. And I think that that's probably why sometimes this is a little easier, because he's my friend and I'm his.
Welcome back to Open Late Podcast. I am your host, Jessica Spandiari, and this week we are diving back in with Anyeri and Jorge. If you haven't yet listened to part 1 of this conversation, go and check it out. I highly recommend it. And you can listen to this episode independently of that one as well. This is a real life couple practicing non-monogamy, and we are talking about the last year and a half of their lives together, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hysterical. They share it all, and very vulnerably. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. How long has it been that you two have been practicing non-monogamy?
A little bit over a year and a half.
It's very new.
Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing. So yeah, that's pretty strong for, 18 months to be in a place where you're already experiencing a lot more curiosity than the, gut reaction of, jealousy and immediate anger, immediate take my earrings out.
Yeah. Like, I've been kind of wanting to have him be more, have a little more experience with women now, because we had to close our relationship for a few months over the summer because other priorities, personal goals, my daughter being home from the summer. It was like me working on my mental health. We've closed it and we focused on ourselves. And now that we have reopened and are emerging again, I feel like I'm ready to see Jorge have some experiences, meet somebody and go on some dates and
yeah. I mean, okay, so separately. So this is a new desire.
Yeah, because so as much as I do enjoy our threesomes, I do love when girls are into him as just as much as they're into me. I love that. I think that's a plus. But there are some girls that Jorge likes that I don't really like. We're not always attracted to the same people. So to always just be to always expect that we have to have it in a throuple 3-way, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that there's girls that he talks to that he likes, and I'm yeah, it'd be cool if maybe he went on a date with them, or if he had some fun with them. I've been thinking about that, and yeah, I haven't gotten mad at myself for it.
Great. It sounds like you two are learning a lot and having a lot of fun along the way, and just giving yourself whatever you need.
Yeah. The stories that we told you, we only got 2-3 months into our open relationship. We've so much. We can be on this call all day.
Yeah.
Learning about each other. He really is my best friend. I think what helps us, and I think a lot of people ask well, what is it? What do you guys have? And I'm I just think it's our foundation based on friendship, because we started off as friends. And because we were so honest with each other about who we were and what we were doing with our lives. I would tell Jorge, hey, I'm going on a date with this guy. And he would be oh, how was your date? And, and he would tell me oh yeah, I was with this chick last night or whatever. We were just always very open about who we were as people. So we didn't, I feel sometimes that a lot of relationships are based on this facade of who you are as a person, so that you show up as the ideal partner for this other person.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people aren't showing up as their true self. And when I met Jorge, I really showed him my true self, and he showed me his. And I think that that's probably why sometimes this is a little easier, because he's my friend and I'm his.
Yeah. And you're not playing you're not playing a game where you have to be on in this version of yourself that's like trying to be accepted and loved. You just get to be you. And that's why so many relationships fail, when people don't love themselves enough to just show up as they are, because eventually like you get burnt out
Mm-hmm.
by being this version of you to please somebody else. And that's going to wear off after a
Right.
couple of years of marriage and the honeymoon stage is over.
What's very interesting right now is that a lot of our married friends, ever since we kind of started our open relationship, we don't know if it's because
Yeah,
of
don't
us or
say
just
that.
because I'm not saying it's because of us, but it's just coincidentally happening that ever kind of since we started our podcast, all our friends have been getting divorced.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Are
Yeah,
they all on the same, like, have they been married about the same amount of time that you two have been together? Like, is it
way
Longer.
longer.
okay?
8+ years.
Okay.
8 years.
That is usually the first benchmark for like major relationship problems. I was going to share like, you know, I just shared this on Instagram the other day of, I have a friend who was going through like a tough time, asked for recommendation just for a therapist, and I shared mine, and I was sharing with her like in private via text message, like how Posh and I went through a really hard time like last year. We were just struggling, and we had been married for 7 years at that point. And we went to therapy, and our therapist was like, this is pretty common around this time. This is a major cycle. It's 7 years. You're having a Saturn return of your marriage. And she was like, it's a major communication breakdown point of time. And she's like, people are not educated around this. And so this is usually one of the first markers where couples will get divorced, And a lot of times, if there are kids involved, then they stay together, and then it happens around like 16 years, or and it's like every 7 years, it's a massive cycle. And our relationship issues had nothing to do with non-monogamy. In fact, like we were hardly practicing. We weren't really, other than a little like fling occurrence here and there, which is such a blip on our radar. In my partnership with Lauren, who, most of my listeners know about, I was in a relationship with Lauren for almost the last 4 years. And some of that included Pasha, and it was the three of us, but she and I really had our own partnership. And non-monogamy aside, we were just not being great. We were just being shitty, and we weren't communicating with each other. And I just think it's so important to share, because we don't talk about that. And we don't say, hey, like there's so much love between us, but we weren't practicing being loving to each other. We were avoiding each other. We were sort of in our trauma response of like, I'm going to be avoidant, he's going to be avoidant. And just to have an objective person, like a therapist, be able to sit with you and sort of translate, this is what he actually means, is like invaluable. I always tell people like our therapist, Gia, she had us like back in love, head over heels in like 3 sessions. And that was about a year ago. And do you know what we do now? Therapy every week. We never miss it. Because when you're actually in a good place is when you can like work on the underlying childhood stuff. It's like when you go and you're in crisis mode, all they can do is get you out of crisis mode. So I went on this big tangent to like say, I wish that, friends, your friends, like if they're meant to be together, and people who are struggling in their marriages or in their partnerships would like try therapy, because a lot of times people exit out of these relationships around the 7-year itch thinking there's nothing left between us. We've grown apart. We have way different interests. I don't even enjoy being around you, which is exactly how my husband and I felt about each other last year. And it's wild to think of, people are like, wow, you would have never known. And it's true. Like on the outside, things look great. But people aren't being honest and authentic the way that, you two are talking about and describing in your lives. So there's my little soapbox. Go to therapy.
No, I'm glad that you said all that, because it gives me hope, because I'm scared too, in a way, with the 7-year, 8-year coming, because I left my ex-husband at 7 years, 7 years in.
Mm-hmm.
By the 8th year, we were divorced. So there's this part of me that like, sometimes Jorge will say things to me like, babe, we're going to be together forever. And I'm like, like, no.
Yeah, forever's a long time.
I know. But he always says it. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll just take it one day at a time.
Yeah. And when you're with somebody who's like there for your evolution and your growth and wants to see the next version of you and the next version of you and the 20th version of you 20 years from now, like that's when you know, okay, I'm in a solid partnership and we can change and grow together.
Thanks.
That's what I was gonna say, but you said it better.
No, I want to hear you say it too.
I can't say it any better.
Aw.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when you know that you're with someone that wants to change, and is willing to, hear your side of like what it is that you want out of the relationship, and willing to kind of meet you in the middle, because that's what both of us have been doing. It's like, okay, like, I'm willing to do this, but not this, and it's like, well, I'm willing to do this, but not this, and it's kind of like doing that, and at the same time, well, anything that you want to do that doesn't really have to involve me, then go ahead, because just because I don't want to do it doesn't mean that I have to stop you from having the experience that you want, and
Right.
those kind of understandings as well. And, we haven't got to that point, 100% yet, but I just feel like every single day it's just getting easier, because having an open relationship has helped us deal with a lot of things outside of open relationships, like just everyday life. I feel like the things that we have learned on this journey help us overcome so many different obstacles.
Yeah. Can you give an example of like what that would look like?
So when we have like little arguments, kind of like when we were saying, when you're feeling things, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's their fault.
Mm.
It's like when she's upset with me about little things, like maybe it might be dishes, or maybe it might be, not saying something that she wanted me to say. It might not necessarily mean that I'm doing anything wrong. It could be a lot of other reasons that she's dealing with some type of emotional problem, or some type of like chemical problem, like, her stress levels are up, or her anxiety is going crazy right now, and she's just doing things that she doesn't really mean, and I have to like it took me a really long time to identify that.
Mm.
I feel like our open relationship kind of helped me just understand that she doesn't always mean what she's doing. She's just reacting, and she doesn't always have control of her reactions.
Yeah.
It was just able to kind of like take that and put it in other areas of our relationship, and it helps me deal with her reactions just so much better. Now I don't react to her reactions the same way anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of times I used to get very triggered by just very basic conversation and her, just reactions to things, and now I'm just able to be like, okay, you're just, you don't mean that. I just kind of have to let you vent.
Mm. Yeah.
Anxiety, and, and just get you to breathe, and kind of like, validation is something that she's been teaching me, in this relationship, because I never had an example of that in my childhood, with my family. I never really knew what validation was. I literally had to ask her, what is validation? How do I validate you?
Mm.
So, that is, validating somebody when you're dealing with people you're having sex with. Like, if you can deal with talking about people that you want to have sex with, you can talk about anything, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, I just feel like it just made our communication so much easier. Because we
Yeah.
dealt with the hardest of communication already.
Right.
It's so beautiful, everything you're sharing. I have to say, like, I just love hearing the amount of like vulnerability that it takes to go to these places where it sounds like you really attracted each other into your lives to do a lot of that like inner child healing work. Like you're learning to give each other things that you didn't have when you were a kid. And that's what we do. And that's when you know you meet your person, when they're going to trigger all of the things, but then you are both so emotionally intelligent. It's like very evident in just our conversation, like how much personal development work you've done on yourselves, and you're willing to go there. And now you're able to kind of like do it together and hold that space for each other. You know, you're learning what I'm hearing from you, which is the coolest thing, is that like you're not taking anything personally, because you're realizing like this is her, and like she's got to sort of go through and react in a way that's like the best that she knows how to deal with what's coming at her right now and her stressors. And it's nothing personal. So
Right.
like I can choose my response. And if I can separate and like realize that we're not the same, we're actually two individuals and trying to communicate, that's just such a healthy way to engage and to be in relationship with each other. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
articulate better than I can.
No, I'm just really like kind of playing back what you're saying in like the way that I'm hearing it. But I kind of want to ask you like how what are you learning from the way that he is with you and the way that he validates you?
So to kind of put everything into a more bigger, deeper perspective, I was diagnosed with bipolar when I was 28 years old. So right after my marriage, that's when I went to therapy for the first time. And in therapy and then seeing psychiatrists, I was diagnosed with bipolar and anxiety and depression. And so it's a struggle if you are with somebody who has a mental illness like this, because a lot of times, yes, like what he said, they are chemical imbalances. There are just little triggers, or they're just sometimes like I have a lot of sensory overload and I'll just get very like irritable, and I shut down and I'll like lash out. And it happens so quickly that I'm not really aware that I'm doing or even saying some of the things. I just need to like get out of this situation because I am not like, I'm not doing well right now. And in the meantime, I'll just say some hurtful things that I might not say when I'm feeling like my normal self.
Right.
Jorge has taken a lot of that in the relationship, but I tell him like I've always been this way with my partners. I just never knew that there was a reason. I just thought I had really shitty personality sometimes. And I'm learning that with his reactions and his patience, it's almost like I'm able to kind of control myself a little better too. And I'm almost able to like take a step back and kind of like just breathe for a minute and just say like, okay, how can I go about this in a way that I don't normally go about it, which is like lash out or, storm or pick a fight or get kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah. He's providing like space for you to feel safe, to just take more time for yourself, to create more self-awareness so that you can balance and you can find your ways to like self-soothe or whatever it is. Yeah. That's awesome.
I had that before. I grew up in a very chaotic, emotional, unavailable household, and with narcissistic parents. And so it was very hard. Like I'd always tell him like I was never seen and I was never heard. And so like the other day I was having a breakdown about a situation with my dad, and I told him, I'm like, I really just need you to like ask me if I need a hug. And I didn't even realize that I needed a hug until like right now, because like anything you can say right now isn't really going to help, but I don't want you to be quiet. I want you to be like, babe, I'm going through this. I'm sorry that your dad's a dickhead, but here, would you like a hug?
Yeah. Do you need some oxytocin? Let me squeeze you. Yeah.
That like, you don't know what you don't know. And like for a long time, I didn't know that I needed these things. I didn't know that I needed a patient man. I didn't know that I needed him not to get defensive and gaslight me and make me feel shitty for a mental illness that like I didn't ask to have, but it is a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really understood it, you would understand me better too. Like I've never had a partner want to understand me so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when we listened to your episode and you talked about all of the questions that Pasha was asking you afterwards, like the next day, I was like, wow, he has some really, really good questions. And after you kind of like, after his questions made you like change your whole perspective of things.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, I wanted to do that for a really long time. And it's like, he really gave space to be able to do that. Like, that kind of communication is what you need. Like, people who are really like trying to like hear you out and understand you, and not just be like, okay, well, if this isn't working, I don't want to do it. Let's just forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll tell him that that he got an acknowledgement in this episode. But it's true. You know, when you have somebody that's truly curious, as we were saying earlier, curiosity is like, I think curiosity can cure so much in just conflict in general, right? Like seeking to understand someone rather than respond or react. And that's all it took, was him just getting curious about like what my internal process was. Changed the trajectory of our entire relationship. And that was like almost 10 years ago. I want to jump back in and pick up with some of the specifics and sort of adventures that you two have been on in the last year. Because we covered, I don't know, the first 3 or 4 months, you said. Where did you go? How did you navigate? Did you start, setting up different, agreements, like relationship agreements, or were you always just in conversation as you would have new experiences? Yeah.
So now, after the Florida experience where we had the sex machine fiasco,
sex machine fiasco. If you're listening to this episode, I highly recommend making sure that you caught the first half where where Anyeri and Jorge share about the Sibian. Okay, go ahead.
So we're going into Gemini season now, which is my birthday month, because I'm a June baby. So we're going into my birthday month, summertime, and this is when I start feeling myself a little bit. And I didn't really realize this. I didn't realize like that when I get into like my birthday season, that I'm like, I really, really want to explore. I really just want to like let loose.
His inner slut comes out.
Yeah. All right. I like it.
So, and this is going into my dirty 32. I'm about to turn 30 years old at this time.
Okay.
So I had a party, and I had just filmed a movie with like some urban celebrities, Instagram comedians, and stuff like that. So a lot of people wanted to be around me at this time. So
he was in his bag.
Yeah, I was feeling myself.
Nice.
I had a party, and there was a lot of girls that came through, and we were like, we had a conversation at the apartment. We were like, so how do we want to go about this party? We know that some girls are going to be there. Like, what do we want to do? And then Jetty was like, you know what? I'm just going to let loose. I'm going to have fun. And like, if girls want to be around you, I'm going to let you just do your thing and kind of just let you have fun.
Yeah. Happy birthday, boo.
And she was like, yeah, if girls want to come back to the apartment, that's cool too. Like, whatever. So I was like, all right. So we had the party. She started like making out with some girls. And at this time, nobody really knew.
Yeah.
That like.
We were kind of closeted.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, yeah. We were just experimenting. So everybody kind of seeing us engage with other people like this was like, wow. So that was like the first time that we were in public kind of like having fun like this.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting.
It wasn't the first time that we were in public having fun like this.
Oh yeah, because you made out with some guy at the other bar.
Yeah, like a few months before.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
But like one of the first time. It's like people are sort of just now experiencing you two in this way.
There was like probably 300 people at this party. So yeah, to this magnitude. Yeah, no one had ever seen us in this like type of magnitude and element before, up close and personal.
Got it.
Yeah. So at the end of the night, everybody was having a great time. A lot of the girls were asking us, where's the after party? So we were just telling a bunch of girls to come back to the apartment.
And what were you telling the men?
Yeah, men were like offering me money to come.
Like, is there a cover charge for this afters? Because I'm willing to pay it.
Yo, men were like begging him. Like seriously begging him. And he's like, no, no men. Like it's his birthday. He doesn't want to
So there was we had a good amount of apartment.
It was like 5 girls. But still a good amount.
There was more before that. A few left. A few because
it was like 8 girls.
Yeah. So I started like making out with this one girl and like grabbing on her titties, but I was really drunk. And this was like before we had like any kind of like really serious rules.
Yeah, we didn't have really no rules at this point about group play.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I just started engaging with somebody. I saw an opportunity. I grabbed the titty. I started sucking, started kissing the girl. And then Angeli seen it. And she got really triggered.
I was pissed. The evil, jealous monster. Remember her?
Yeah.
She
Okay.
My house. I want all these girls out of here.
She didn't say that.
No, but I wanted to. I did in the kitchen, I think.
I think she might have like once we got like to a little private area.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of other people kind of thought that started leaving, and I was like, hey, if you want everybody to leave, it's cool, it's fine, like. And she's like, no, I want to do this. But the thing is, I guess at the party, I didn't know this, but the girl that I was like kissing and touching her titties or whatever, she was telling her at the party that she really wanted her.
Yes. Yeah, so she came up to me in the bathroom and she was like, yo, girl, I just want to let you know, like, I think you're so hot. You're so sexy. Like, I want to go down on you. Like, could you please? And I was like, yeah, girl, come on. Let's go. So I invite her back to my house because she's hyping me up. I mean, who wouldn't? Like, and now I'm over here on the couch with them and I see, like, she's making out with Jorge. And I'm like, what the fuck?
You're like, you should be making out with me.
Right.
That was so it was almost like competition between the two of you that you were feeling. So you didn't equate like her hooking up with him to mean that like that would turn into a threesome. You were feeling like almost like it was separate things.
Girl, I'm drunk. Like really drunk. Okay.
You're like, there was no logic.
Oh, yeah, it's like the emotional intelligence goes out the freaking window. Like when the tequila, and I must have had a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, we were mixing crazy.
Yeah.
People were buying the shots like crazy. So no, I guess the little part of my brain that was still working was run by like my jealousy and my fear. And yeah, I'm thinking to myself like, wow, did I make a mistake? Like she told me in the bathroom that she wanted me, but here she is making out with my man.
Mm-hmm. So it was just instant trigger.
So I'm like, all right, let me go get her. So I go to get the girl. I'm like, can you guys talk?
Yeah.
She was like, I really do want you, babe. I would eat that pussy right now.
So did it happen?
Yeah, it did.
And then you felt better?
I felt great.
So a few of the girls left, but I think there was like what?
Yeah, there was like 2. There was
3 other girls that stayed.
Oh yeah, there was 3 other girls. Jorge, he's straight. So this is a topic that I actually wanted to touch on, because we hear this a lot. Is like men, especially, will ask, "Does Jorge like watching like me with another man?" And like, how does Jorge feel about it? Like, this is a big topic, and the reality is Jorge is hetero. Like, he's a straight man.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really always feel turned on when he's seen me with another man.
So that was the next experience.
Yes.
Right after my birthday, right? The next day or two, I'm like, all right, so we had a threesome, we did the sex machine, we had an orgy with a whole bunch of girls. It's your turn. Like, we have to figure out how to get you some other dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm ready to get the ball rolling. Like, I'm ready to, cause I don't want to be like unfair on that. No, I'm ready to like, let's get you some dick, you know what I'm saying? And let's try to figure our shit out.
Yeah.
And he was like, I didn't really need like other dick. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, I've had my share of fun. And yes, occasionally I'll come across a man and I'm like, yo, like, I wonder what his dick looks like. But it's not always easy for me to find myself like sexually attracted to men as much as it is to women. So, but yeah, I was like, you know what? I have always had a fantasy of maybe doing an Eiffel Tower, or my man watching me get fucked by another man. That was another one of my fantasies. So I started telling him what my fantasies with men were. And he's like, okay, so you want me to watch you have sex with another man? And I was like, yeah, you don't have to join in. You can literally just watch. So this is where the Swingers of Pennsylvania group comes in.
Okay.
There was a guy in that group who came vetted by a girlfriend of mine who's also in the lifestyle. And she told me, she's like, let's name him Franklin. She said, Franklin is a great, like unicorn. He's been in the lifestyle for 12 years. Like he's very respectful. Like he's going to you and Jorge, and that's what you want, when you're looking for single men.
Yeah, totally.
So it so happened that the same day that we were meeting Franklin, it was his birthday, which was literally like a week after Jorge's birthday. So he was a Gemini too.
Yeah.
So,
and it was like 3 days after.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So similar energy.
Mine is on the 6th, his is on the 9th.
Okay.
I remember.
So I started talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll come down, get a few drinks with you guys, feel the vibe out. And yeah, he had a very similar vibe to Jorge. And he was not as cute as Jorge, but I was like, yeah, I could work with that, because I really did like his energy. And because he was very respectful, I was like, damn, like this might be my one chance. I don't know if I'm going to meet another guy that I'm going to like, and he's going to be this respectful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. 7 billion people in the world probably never meet another man. This is how women think. It's crazy how we think, right?
Scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Hey.
So she was going to go by herself originally, and she really insisted that I go with her. She said that she would feel a lot more better and comfortable. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll go.
Yeah.
I guess I was ready to test Jorge's jealousy. I think really that's what it came down to. Like, because my jealousy had been tested time and time again, as we heard. But at this point, I still don't know that Jorge's jealous. Like, at this point, I still have no fucking clue. So I'm like, no, you're going to come and you're going to see me be a great date, because I am a great date. Like, so you need to see this.
I didn't really talk much. They were just like going back and forth, back and forth. He talked a lot. She talks a lot. They're just going at it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, cool. And he was cool. And he really gave us like a lot of really great insight on the swingers lifestyle, the open relationship world, because he knew a lot about the swingers clubs, which we knew nothing about at the time. We were just kind of hearing about them. We didn't even know that there were any in the area or anything. So he was telling us all about that, telling us about how people are in there, telling us about all of his experiences. And he had a very unorthodox marriage, that was, very different than what we had heard. So like he gave us a lot of really great insight. So I was like, you know what, this is a really cool guy, to have this kind of experience with.
Yeah.
So, everybody got comfortable. I was like, so do you want to come back to our apartment? I'm the one who suggested it. So they were like, yeah, cool. So we go back, and I don't know what I don't know if I told her, but I was like, I knew that I didn't want to go to the apartment. We already were talking for like 2 hours. I was like, we don't have to go over there and talk for like super long before we like get it going. Like, let's go in there. But either way, we still talked for like an hour and some change. And I don't think that either of them were gonna do anything until I said something.
Yeah.
So I went to the bathroom, and I was like, all right. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, you're gonna go out there, and you're gonna tell each other like it's time. Like, we know why we're here.
Yeah. It's go time, baby.
All right, so that's exactly what I did. I went outside, and guys, so we know why we're here. All right, so I asked Anyeri first. I was like, so Anyeri, do you want to have sex with this guy? And then she was like, yeah.
I do.
I do.
And Franklin, do you want to have sex with Anyeri? I do. Great. It's like a marriage.
The power invested in Jorge.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. So then after they said yes, and then Anyeri was like, okay, now I got to go to the bathroom. She like freshened up in there. She came out. She was like in her
No, hold
underwear.
on. You don't want to hear my monologue in the bathroom? I had a little monologue too.
Yeah, so she must have. Go ahead, babe.
Because here's the thing. I had never done this before. I was a good Catholic girl. You know, like this was not how I was raised. So I just want to make that very clear. Like, I look at myself in the bathroom and you're like, I'm thinking to myself, are you really going to do this? Are you really going to have sex with another man in front of your man? It's like the devil and the angel. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's the angel side of me. Like, who's like, are you sure? Like, what does Jorge think of you afterwards? But then, like, the devil side was like, I mean, he asked, like, hello, he knows what you're doing. He's consenting to it. So I went out there. But yeah, I was scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing that all play out because I feel validated, because that is like those are the voices that, you know, I grew up with as well, about like all the, you know, potential threesomes I walked out of that, you know, you mentioned earlier from that episode. And it's like now, you know, a decade in, I actually think about those voices as like the angel was the one spurring me on, and the devil was the one actually trying to hold me back, even though, you know, how you said it, it's like because of what is ingrained in us of like what right and wrong and good and bad. And it's all just not true. Right. But, you know, society perpetuates it and makes it, you know, so that, you know, ultimately sexuality can be controlled, because it's really scary when it's unleashed. So tell us about your experience, or not, but was it amazing?
Yeah, so I guess from my perspective, I don't know how it felt, but you know, she they were like, she was always asking me, hey, can I do this? Can we do this? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, go ahead. So she was like, can he eat me out? I was like, yeah. So then he ate her out for like a long time, and this was a really interesting experience because he was doing like a lot of finger stuff, and like in that moment, I was like, I might be able to learn some shit.
Yes.
Yay!
Wow.
So, you know, I might be, you know, but it was like, again, like you said, we're multifaceted human beings and we have multiple emotions at the same time. So I'm having those thoughts at the same time. It's like, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, you know, a little bit like of uncomfort, you know, but a little bit of, hey, I'm glad we're finally doing this.
So,
Mm-hmm.
regretting it while it was happening?
I never regretted it. You know, I always knew that everything that we were doing was a step forward in some type of direction. Even if we realized that it's something that we didn't like, it's still a step forward, because we're having that we need to be able to understand each other better. So I never really regretted anything. It was always just like some feelings of like discomfort that arose, but it was never overwhelming, you know. But I wasn't necessarily turned on. I didn't like get a hard on. Like I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I wanted to be a part of it. I was just okay watching, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where like I feel like I'll always be okay just like watching. I don't feel like I have to talk to you guys. I could just be like in the corner of my own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not be bothered.
Yeah.
You know, not like over here like, oh my, I'm not over here like being tormented, you know. I think I just have so many emotions, you know. There's not just one emotion that I can tell you that I'm feeling at that time. It's just like curiosity. It's like I'm learning. It's like, you know, I want to see like how much you're enjoying it. I want to see your facial expression. I want to see his facial expressions. I want to see everything, you know. But I don't want to talk to you. I don't really want to engage. You know, and it's like you might feel like I'm not enjoying it, but it's not that I'm not. It's just that just all the things that I'm experiencing, you know.
Right.
This is just
that's your style. I love that. It's like you're getting to watch this beautiful real life, like, you know, erotic scene play out, right? It's like your own homemade porn in front of you. And you just don't want to break that fourth wall. You want it to be like, okay, this is happening and I'm getting to experience it and view it. And I can have my own experience where I don't have to engage.
It's funny. I'm a fast forward a little bit because this is something that I never actually told her, and she kind of brought it up one time, but I didn't even like. I was like, okay.
Wait a minute.
Hold on. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. We were having an experience down in Florida where she had brought over this guy. And we had like a hot tub and a pool and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, you guys can go ahead and do your thing. I'm gonna leave. And I rode around on my electric scooter for a while. And she told me later on that they heard me going by on my electric scooter, but they didn't really know that I was kind of slowing down when I was going by the house because I was still interested in hearing what was going on.
Oh my God.
I never told her that.
Could you hear?
I couldn't hear anything. I was like, what are they doing? They're telling me. I kept on riding by waiting to hear something like, am I going to hear a little moan?
Yeah, you're like, I know how loud my girl is. Why can't I hear anything?
What a creep, babe.
It's funny.
Also, but it's not like I didn't like want it to be happening. It's just I didn't, you guys can go ahead and have your own experience because you never we never really had it like this yet where I like get to meet the guy and you have your own experience and we get to talk about it after. But it's like that was just something new. And like I want like I feel like she wants me to be a part of it a lot. It's like she's not okay with me just being there. She wants me to be a part of it.
I'm sorry. I just I'm a slut. And it's like, yo, I love you so much. You are so hot to me. So it's like, why wouldn't I want to add you into the mix with this other hot dude? It's just like how you are. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, you and another hot girl. Bam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's just my sexuality sees it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I learned to accept the fact that it's not a part of his sexuality, which is fine. He can watch it. He could be there. He can respect it, but he doesn't have to get involved. So I kind of did struggle with that at first because I was like, damn, like all these girls are out here and they're doing the hot wife fantasy. And like, I can't really do the hot wife fantasy because, he's not into it.
I feel like there's still like potential to like have those experiences. It's just got to be in a certain way just because. So I did have a lot of difficult experiences, like, when we started engaging with men. Mm-hmm. So there was that one, which wasn't a difficult experience. It was cool. Mm-hmm. What started to make it difficult was like when she told me she wanted me to be involved. That's when it started to get a little difficult, especially because of how like it went about. So the first time we went to a swingers club, right after we had engaged, what you call him, Franklin?
Yeah.
After the experiences and I just watched, we ended up going to a swingers club for the first time. And we didn't really know what we were going to do. We were just going to go see. We watched,
Mm-hmm.
We watched some people, having sex or giving head and all this other stuff, playing with a paddle, spanking each other's butts and stuff. I was like, okay, this is super interesting. And we didn't really know what we wanted to do. We talked to like this older couple and there was like a couple single guys there. So me, I'm a very social person. I just talk to everybody.
Right.
I went to the bathroom and there was this really big black guy. And he was single. And I'm talking to him while she goes to the bathroom. And then when she comes back, she starts talking to him too. And then at that point, he sells himself. He's like, yo, so if y'all want to have, me perform and have me, a threesome with two guys, I'm here. Let me know. So so we go outside. We go outside, we talk. And she's like, we talk about, who we're interested in or whatever, like what we love. And she said, I might, want to have experience with a big black guy. I was like, hey, if that's what you want to do, like, we can do that. And she's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. So I didn't really know how it was going to work. This is like a man's biggest fear, like this big black guy about to like,
he's telling it like it is. I appreciate it.
This is true. Like, it's like this is the biggest sexual fear. I don't know why. This is just like something that's just like
because the media has portrayed the Mandingo like oh, the Mandingo's gonna steal your girl.
Yeah, it's
right.
Like it's a fucking category on porn. It's like the big black cock. So all right, if this is what you want, let's do it. And I was because it's like all right, boom. If I do this is the worst possible thing that I can do. I might as well get it out the way.
God.
Yeah.
Let's check.
Sounds like he's getting like a hysterectomy or something. It's just procedure over with. Come on now.
Yeah. And it was like it was kind of the same thing, right? She kind of started with just like how I did in the group experience, but we still didn't make it a rule yet.
Yeah.
Even though we kind of knew what the issue was or whatever the case is, like it wasn't just that I was, I messed with her first. It was also like that jealousy, like that competition factor, so we didn't really understand that was the thing. Like, we have to play with each other first. Like, we have to like get each other in that mood and make each other comfortable before anybody else can really join in, if we're going to be doing it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you only figured that out by doing it a few times.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we pulled, she like grabbed my hand, Dingo by the hand, and she, led him to the sofa, and I kind of followed them, and I was like, okay. So am I the third?
Oh, babe.
So I followed them to the couch. I like sat over here. She like sat on his lap. She was giving him a little lap dance. She was like, "Can I suck his dick?" I was like, "Yeah, go ahead." So she started giving him head, and then I was like, at this point, I'm watching, and it's like, I'm okay with just watching. I'm cool with this. This is fine, But then she was like, "Okay, babes, let's get it, So I was like, "Okay, I'm not hard. I don't know if I'm gonna get hard, but I'm gonna try." So we're in the club, we're in a public place, so like there's people like watching.
People start to pull up a chair.
Yeah. So I like pull down my pants, and I'm not hard, and this is the first time I ever experienced this, like in a public place, like I'm showing my dick. It's not hard, there's always like this soft dick, hard dick kind of like thing in a man's head, so I'm like, all right, now you guys see my soft meat.
Oh my God, babe.
Right?
Were you like, babe, can I get a little assistance?
She started,
I did. I tried.
Even though she was trying, and she put her mouth on it, she was trying to suck it. I was just like too much in my head, and I just couldn't get hard. And then from that point on, it was just like a downhill slope for like my emotional self. I just started getting like super in my head. I'm like, okay, this is embarrassing. Like, this guy's like, super rock hard, and he's ready to go, and I just can't do anything. And like, she keeps on telling me like, come on, babe, like, come on, like, be a part of it. Yo, you do this, and she can tell like, babe, I can't really do anything right now. I
wasn't really doing a good job of reading the room.
Yeah, so it was just like it was a really tough experience for me, and it kind of traumatized me a little bit. I never experienced, ED before. So after that, I did experience it again. Like and I was like, oh man, is this going to be a thing now? It kind of like fucked up my head a little.
Right. It happens once and then you fear that it's going to happen again. And I mean, the bummer is that like, I'm not a man. I don't have a penis, so I can't, relate really. But society sort of tells men and people with penises that like, that is your worth, right? The size of it, the way it performs, and this and that. So like one time you have a biological situation where it's just not happening, the same as like women don't get wet sometimes. Like you think that there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you make it mean all these things.
Yeah.
Right.
It was tough for Jorge that night. And we learned a lot that night. There was a fight on the way home because of that night, and it was mostly just us. It was a fight that happened where we were just kind of like, oh my God, like what the fuck, like what was that, like what was, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because after I watched him struggle, I couldn't really get myself back into with the guy, and then luckily there was a girl there who she was feeling me and her started playing with each other, and I was hoping that like with him seeing me and her play with each other, I was hoping that he would, come back to life, but he didn't. So him and the Mandingo, the girl and the Mandingo actually ended up finishing the session.
Great. Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So somebody had a good time. We just kind of dipped out after that.
Yeah. Big learning. So what were the conversations like after that? How did you navigate coming back to a place of like understanding and moving forward?
Well, that's when we made the rule, like, all right, we can do things. It doesn't really matter. But if we're going to try to involve each other, we got to start with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
And make sure that we're comfortable first and continue to check in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that works well for you too?
Yeah. So we did have an experience later on where everything started off okay. And it was with a couple. We actually did a swap after that. And everything started off okay. But then I don't know. For me, things got like just a little bit off with like the girl and like the condoms and like there was just like a few things that were just like throwing me off a little bit. And then it happened again. I had like ED, and then everybody was trying to cheer me on, but I don't think it was helping. I think it was making it worse.
Right. You're like, let's not put more attention here.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, let me just, I'll handle this. You guys keep doing you.
That's cool, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you're fine. You know? I was like, okay. I ended up locking myself in the bathroom. I was like, this is horrible. I don't know what the hell's going on. I thought we were going to be good this time because we did start with each other. So I just didn't know what was going on. But then well, this is what it was. Because it was another black guy. And his dick was definitely bigger than mine. And I heard her making noises that I never heard before.
I don't know.
So might not be anything. It was a little bit for me, you know?
Yeah.
But,
You're internalizing all of this.
right. So, but then she kind of explained to me, she's like, yeah, you know, I definitely, you know, understand what you were saying, but it's not because it felt good. It's because it hurt. And it's like, you know, at first we don't really understand that. Mm-hmm. Men don't understand that. It's like, oh, so you're making these fucking noises that sound like you're moaning even deeper, but it hurts.
Yeah, so
it's like it's a really confusing like thing for us to understand.
I want to really put this out there because I think it's really important for men to understand that having a big dick isn't the end all be all. And I'm coming to realize that I really do not favor big dicks. Like, and when I'm talking big dicks, I'm talking like more than 8 inches, like even like 7, like, you know what I mean? Like my ideal is like 6 to like 7.5, but even that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
Like a 7 is like, I'm good. And it's just the way that my body is made. I have and this was told to me when I had my daughter. The reason I had to have my C-section was because my daughter got stuck in my pelvic because I have a very tight, narrow pelvic. Like I have a very tight, narrow pussy. Mm-hmm. So I need a lot of meat. Yeah. A lot of meat actually equals some comfort for me.
Yes.
It's when I don't know you and when you're just kind of like ramming it in, you know what I mean? Like a lot of men with big dicks like to do. Mm-hmm. I need all that. Like it's kind of discomforting. So what you heard as like crazy moaning was me actually like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I don't really can't handle this, but I'm not about to be a little bitch about it. You know what I mean? Because we're told that like, oh, come on, girl, you're supposed to take it.
Yeah, which is like a terrible narrative. And, you know, like you can stop things and say, hey, let's take a beat. Like, I'd like to slow down, you know, coaching session from Jessica. And for everybody listening, like, you know, I would love to see us shift towards a world where, you know, our pleasure is the focus and at least an equal, right? Where you can be like, hey, that's not really doing it for me, you know, because I'm same as you in my 20s, like all day long. I was like, oh yeah, I want it this way. And, you know, it's good if it's like rough, whatever. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, I actually like don't like that so much. It has to be with like a very specific person, you know, really Pasha, and that's it. And anyone else, I'm like, I want things to go at my pace. And, you know, it's not, it's not enjoyable to be in a sexual experience that's all about penetration too, when there's like so much more to do during sex than just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, I was kind of like, you know what, babe, like, I don't really, you know, I had a couple other experiences with other different men, but it wasn't like, none of those experiences with other men were ever amazing. Like the Florida guy was probably like the best. He was a lot different. He took me into consideration and we had like good chemistry. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, like I haven't really enjoyed like sex with other men as much as I just enjoy it with him. And I really don't feel the need. Like I'm currently not dating right now other men. Like I don't really feel the need to like entertain single men. You know, a couple I would be down, but like I'm good. Like I'm so like sexually satisfied with him, but I really just I'm more intrigued with women right now.
Yeah.
So
that's the season you're in. Awesome. Yeah. And you've been actively exploring your bisexuality now? Do you date women solo also?
I'm trying to, but damn, it's hard out here in these streets.
Yeah. I mean, dating in general is just not easy.
Yeah, so we're on Fields, and I'm sure you've heard of that dating app. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to like talk to girls, and I just haven't really haven't had much luck. Like, we've had like, it's easier to like get girls to be interested in a threesome than I feel like it is easier for me to be like, hey, you want to go on a date? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of struggling right now. So if there's any like, I mean, I'm also into like femmes. Like, I'm also into femmes. So it's like, if there's any like hot femmes out there that are into me, like, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Wait, what city are you guys in now?
DC.
Okay, so for everybody in DC listening, this is so great. You guys are so fun. I could talk to you all day. I would love to wrap it up and just kind of check in. And there's one question that a lot of people will always ask. And when I get to have a real couple on practicing non-monogamy, right? This is like your life. And you guys also have a podcast that you started, that you have a couple episodes out of, called Everybody Does It. So you're also now stepping into like sharing and educating, right, about non-monogamy. How is it that you are finding community, and are you building community in DC? Like you mentioned that you have a friend who's in the lifestyle. Are you starting to collect people, and now that you're kind of like out about it, right? Because you were closeted at first. Are you starting to, yeah, I guess build community around non-monogamy, or is it just like this part of your lives that functions sort of independent of everything else?
Oh no, we definitely want to build a community. I think it just gets hard because, I do have a 9-year-old, and we are very busy with our work and our lives, so it gets tough sometimes. But we are definitely trying to like go out there and meet people, and we'll search like swingers clubs or lifestyle clubs. We did find like a BDSM kink club in the DC area that we were kind of like discussing checking out. It's been mostly online though. Like, our community has really been growing online, and we're very grateful for that. I mean, that's how we found you, and now I feel like you're gonna be able to be a part of our community. We're a part of yours. So in the areas that we're in, we haven't had the best luck, but it's mostly because like life gets in the way, not because we don't actively want that.
Right.
Yeah. Also, can I just reflect back to you that you guys are what, a year and a half in, we said, and you're talking about how like you haven't had the best luck and it's like so hard to meet women. And I guarantee that people are listening, like scribbling and taking notes about these. You've had so many experiences. Like you've had a lot of really, positive experiences and experiences that you've learned from that like you maybe wouldn't repeat, but you got so much out of in the way of like figuring out what you like and finding out what some of these agreements are and boundaries that like you're holding with each other. So, sounds like you haven't wasted too much time.
Oh no, I definitely don't feel like it's time wasted. I think what I mean when I say it's hard to find women is that for me, I'm very selective. I'm very protective of our energy. And I'm selective in the sense of I want someone who genuinely is in the right mindset to date somebody like me, or, be into us.
Yeah.
Not necessarily people who might just do it because it's like a kink.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what?
Totally.
Genuine, because we recently had an experience with a girl where like after our threesome, she came out as like, oh no, like I'm not like if I wasn't single, I would be monogamous and I wouldn't be supportive of your lifestyle, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Really weird. Yeah. And that like that just like turned me off. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, those are people who are just still figuring it out. Like she's probably uncomfortable and would judge herself in that situation. It has so little to do with you two, actually. Because everybody's in a different place, on their journey. And maybe she truly is monogamous and does have these little things that she wants to try and realize are not for her. in her real life. But I love that you're, looking at this as like, what kind of quality people can we add to our lives? Because
Right.
similar to you, I think that non-monogamy and polyamory has made me so much more selective. Especially, now that we're going to start a family, this year, it's like, okay, now we get to be super selective about who comes into our lives. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I say about community, because the community that we kind of have created at this point, we've kind of been like the pioneer. Everybody's kind of like just been looking at us, looking to us for information or for perspective, and it hasn't really been the other way around. People have been sharing their experiences with us. So this is actually the first time that we've had like in-depth conversation like this being recorded with somebody else that has been dabbling with the lifestyle as well. And this is something that we've just recently planning on doing a lot more. So I feel like this is how we're going to be able to develop a better community where we're going to have other people who are actually living it rather than people who are just watching us live it.
Right. And who are like, want to try it, but don't know if it's like for them. And you're like the tester. You're like, we don't
Yeah.
need a tester.
Right.
Beautiful.
And they'll be like, how are you doing it? Like, how is it working? Like, how is it possible? And it's like, okay, well, for starters, do you love each other? Do you respect each other? And do you think you could be honest and vulnerable with each other? If you can't do those things, this is going to be really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. For me, that's always my first question is like, or not even question, when people want to open up, I'm like, cool. For the next month, tell each other about anyone that you think is attractive in public or even in your lives that you have an attraction to. Start telling your partner about your friends that you've fantasized about sleeping with. And then get back to me in a month. See how that
Yeah.
sits?
Yeah, we did that phase.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that was, that was such a big part of it, but it definitely is. And that's a good point. But
Yeah.
it was great. I
Mhm.
am so grateful for you having us on this conversation today. I feel like we learned a lot in the process.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It was really great to like, just let all this out, and I feel like we always get a lot from it too.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
so definitely thank you, and I hopefully a lot of people that are listening will be able to get a lot out of what is that we talked about today, and
I
and
know they will.
we can start changing the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to, acknowledge you two. And I appreciate so much your time and your beautiful energy. These 2 episodes have been incredible and exactly what, I know my listeners are hungry for real
Mm.
life people, unedited and vulnerable. Like, this is the good, the bad, the wild, and truly the big learning lesson. So I appreciate you both. And for everybody listening, make sure you go check out the podcast. Everybody Does It. Make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you continue to share.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome. All right, my loves, that's been another incredible episode. Make sure you are, following Openly the podcast on Instagram. We have a TikTok. Are you subscribed on Apple and Spotify? It always helps other people find the show. Take a moment to review it as well. The numbers, they seem silly, but they are important so that more people can find this work. I love you all. I'll see you next week.